Now that the final chapter of You has aired, the dust has settled. We've seen Joe Goldberg's story come to a close. And while it delivered in a lot of ways, I can't lie, something felt missing. We never got the trial, no courtroom reckoning, no final unmasking to the world. And for a story built on secrets, that silence felt loud. So, in this video, we're gonna break it all down. What Season 5 actually gave us. What we got right in our previous theory video, what we got wrong, and why. And then, we're diving deep into the mind of every major character. This is Lawhaven, I'm Nash, and you are awesome. But you know who isn't? Joe Goldberg. And let's talk about why. Let's start with what Season 5 actually delivered. We end this season off with Joe behind bars, a wild reversal from every other season. He's caught, and not metaphorically this time, but literally. The world now knows who Joe Goldberg really is. The first big twist? Brontë, the woman he confided in, turns out to be Louise, Beck's best friend. And she's not here for a story, she's here for revenge. She shoots him, but he survives. Well, most of him survives anyway. Let's just say Joe won't be stalking anyone with that weapon again. Then comes the reckoning. Joe's secrets come out one by one. Kate finds out everything.
Oh, your flattery has me weak in the knees.
Nadia is freed. And the world watches the man behind the murders finally fall. But even with all of that, it still felt like something was missing. We never saw the trial. No courtroom drama. No legal takedown of a man who's eluded justice for 5 whole seasons. If we got just one episode, even just one, it could have grounded everything. We needed that final stamp of judgment, but instead, we got a psychological confession, and then a fade to black. Now let's talk about predictions. What we nailed from our previous Season 5 theory video. We predicted that Joe would end up exposed to the public. Nailed it. We theorized Nadia would be released and possibly write stories about Joe. Yup, she did. And she even published her own expose. And for the biggest one, we predicted that Brontë would be a spy that catfishes and ultimately betrays Joe, and boom, Louise. That twist hit hard. However, we weren't perfect. Here's what we didn't get right. We thought that Joe might go full anti-hero and try to out a larger evil, like the Lockwood Empire, in order to sort of redeem himself. But that never happened. He still made it about himself to the very end. What a narcissist. We imagined the season diving into a full-blown court trial with former characters testifying, maybe even flashbacks to Love or Beck, but the trial was skipped entirely, off-screen. Huge letdown. We thought that Joe would run away and feel the weight of his victims' confrontations overwhelming him and the pain of disappointing Henry ultimately causing him to take his own life. Huge miss on our part, but you gotta admit, that didn't seem so far-fetched at the time, especially given all the foreshadowing in Season 4. We also hoped Henry's arc would play a larger role. He was mentioned and there was a scene with Henry's phone call to him and then calling him a monster, but that emotional tie felt distant. And personally, I didn't think it was enough for Joe to take accountability. Now here's the stuff nobody saw coming. Louise being tied to Beck? Genius twist. Joe's monologue at the end. The way he spins the blame back on us, the audience, saying, maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe it's you. That was bone-chilling. Fourth wall break done right. Kate's final choice? That was unexpected. Not only does she break away from her family's corruption, but she also chooses a new path, one without Joe, and becomes an art dealer. She doesn't die, she doesn't snap, she simply leaves. And that quiet strength, that hit deeper than any twist. However, I do feel that her character is a bit hypocritical, seeing as she was the one who made Joe kill his first victim in this season anyway. She used him to kill her uncle when he got in her way, and then all of a sudden she's now this morally upstanding character. Like, am I really supposed to believe that? What do you mean she didn't know about Joe framing Nadia, who was an innocent student of his, who just happened to figure out Joe's evil schemes? What do you mean she didn't know about his past victims and that he was the Eat the Rich killer? That felt like a cheap cop-out, to be honest. Let's go deeper. Season 5 didn't just tell a story, it unraveled the minds of its characters. Let's break that down. Joe Goldberg. Joe is no longer a man in denial. he's a man split, as seen in season 4. Now season 5 shows the full fracture of his identity. He's a narcissist, yes, but now fully self-aware. The fantasy breaks, and yet in the end, he still blames everyone else. I've given you everything and you still want more. That's not a confession. That's manipulation disguised as closure. Kate Galvin Lockwood. Kate's story is about power and morality. She's torn between the wealth of her family gave her and the guilt of what that money destroyed. And when she finds out about Joe, she doesn't crumble. She rebuilds herself, albeit hypocritically, without him. Louise, aka Brontë. Louise is obsession turned justice. Her entire identity was a mask, a long con. She didn't want fame, she wanted revenge. And that scene where she shoots Joe, that was her reclaiming her power for Beck and for herself. Nadia. Nadia's arc shows how trauma can be turned into truth. She survived the system and then she wrote it down. Her book isn't just a takedown, it's a liberation. Henry. He's the innocent bystander, but his future, one free from Joe, becomes the symbol of hope the show desperately needed. Tom Lockwood, posthumous. Even dead, Kate's father remains a ghost in the room. His legacy is what she's fighting against, and by rejecting it, she finds peace. Society, the viewers. Lastly, us. The fan mail Joe gets in prison, that's a critique of how society romanticizes monsters. And when he turns to the camera and blames us, it's the show's way of saying, you kept watching. You let him in. So, was season 5 satisfying? In some ways yes, and in some ways no. Joe's story ended, truth came out, characters grew, but there's no denying the lack of a public trial robbed us of a major emotional payoff. We saw a man finally fall, but we didn't feel the gavel hit. Still, the depth of the characters, the full circle twists, the final message about accountability and complicity, and the powerful acting of the cast in this season, especially Penn Badgley, that made season 5 powerful but still flawed in its own quiet way. Overall, I'll give this season a rating of 6 out of 10 passable. Also, Brontë had some serious plot armor this season. Like, how did she survive getting shot in her abdomen, strangled and drowned? Like, it's actually insane. There's no way she could have survived. Thanks for watching this breakdown of You Season 5. Drop a comment, what did you think of the ending? Did it hit the mark? Or did you also feel like something was left unsaid? If you enjoyed this, give it a like, share it with other fans, and hit that subscribe button. More content coming soon. Deeper dives, theories, and all the unspoken truths in the shows we love. Want more of this awesome content? The almighty algorithm thinks you'll enjoy these, and so do I. Go check him out. Until next time, stay curious.